This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America for this Tuesday morning. I'm Seth Merrill. Thanks for joining me. A little later on in the show, we will be joined by Sean Clancy from ThisIsHorseRacing.com. He was also out participating with the Horse Racing Radio Network team at Santa Anita this past weekend. So we'll have a little Breeders' Cup conversation with Sean Clancy. Towards the bottom of our hour, our regular visit from Michael Chamberlain at Turf Paradise. We'll get some ideas on Turf Paradise. We'll get some of his thoughts as well on the Breeders' Cup this past weekend. But kicking things off here on this Tuesday morning, we are joined now by Tony Calo from Finger Lakes. Good morning, Tony.
Hey, Seth. How are you, buddy?
Very good. Happy to have you on board. And Tony, before we get specifically to one of the races over the Breeders' Cup weekend that had some Finger Lakes connections, just let me get your overall impressions of the 2 days of racing out at Santa Anita.
Well, I thought it was pretty good. It started off a little questionable with the speed bias conveyor belt that was developing, just like the previous year. That had me concerned. But I thought the track got a little bit more fair as the 2-day event went on, and I thought it was a great 2 days of racing. We had some great races, some great finishes, and something horse racing could be really, really proud of.
Yeah, I agree. I said yesterday on the show that about midday on Saturday, I was a little lukewarm on things, but as Saturday played out, particularly because the distaff on Friday had not played out in the ding-dong fashion that I was hoping for, not to take a thing away from Beholder, but by the end of the day on Saturday, Group Edal, Misdirection, Wise Dan, the ding-dong finish in the Classic, I thought it was a really nice 2 days of racing. But one of the races I really want to focus on, and I was really anxious to talk to you because I want to hear what the reaction has been at Finger Lakes. How often is there a Finger Lakes connection with a Breeders' Cup winner? But on Saturday, we're going to go back and look at the stretch run to the Juvenile Fillies Grade 1 event, $2 million purse. Coming under the wire first is going to be the number 10 She's a Tiger with Gary Stevens on board. But Javier Castellano over Ria Antonia is going to run second and subsequently be moved up on the DQ. And why that is very important for the Finger Lakes folks, Ria Antonia at 32-1, trained by Finger Lakes' own Jeremiah Engelhardt. Tony, give me the reaction at Finger Lakes on this Breeders' Cup win.
You know, I was up in the booth, and all of us up in the crow's nest were they were going crazy. It's funny. I've said it many times out here. I called plenty of races in California for about 10 years, and when the stewards / the inquiry signed up, there's no need for the objection to come up from the jockeys. So all of a sudden, I got a call from the stewards and the placing judges. They're all, how come the jockey's not claiming foul? And I'm like, guys, I've told you many times, when the inquiry signs up, they don't put the objection sign. Oh, okay. So they're like, why won't the jockey claim foul too? And everybody was pumped. My girlfriend was down on the fourth level, or the third level, I should say, and she said the whole place was just buzzing. Everybody was screaming for Rio Antonio in the stretch. And when they put her number up, apparently there just was a tremendous buzz over the whole facility.
Has Jeremiah shown up in the track so far?
Yeah, he was there yesterday. In fact, I texted him, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? I go, savor it. How come you're still not out there? And he's like, back to work.
That's it exactly. That is the horse racing
he
game.
He had a horse in the second race, and I think the horse came up a little bit, and he was back to being his boss, and all of a sudden I heard him screaming at the grooms, Gopher. So he had his owners right there, and he was wearing a Breeders' Cup hat. And in fact, my girlfriend, who has a couple horses on the backside, she is actually stabled in Jeremiah's barn. And there is a sign. There's a big sign when you pull up to the barn. It says home of Cameron Hall, and I got a feeling that's going to be replaced.
Yeah, you would think so. Although I had him on Racing Across America when we were up in Saratoga. Had you on, of course, earlier in the meet as well. But I talked to Jeremiah a little bit later in the meet after King Crease had run that nice second behind Wise Dan. And so, really nice year for Jeremiah.
Yeah, tremendous job he's doing. And, like he credited during the press conference, all of his help. And, I'm really happy for Jeremiah. He's a good family guy. He's been working hard on his family. I believe they've had 4 kids in 3 years. More power to him. I have 3 cats in 2 years, and that's driving me nuts with my girlfriend and her kids.
Yeah, and as I say, 32-1 under the line. I'm wondering if they just figured out the odds at Finger Lakes would have been a little shorter. Were people cashing some tickets out there?
You know, I'm not sure about that. I will say this, that he called me on, I think it was last Wednesday, and he was telling me how beautiful Santa Anita was, and I was like, yeah, you know, I've only been there once, and it was a long, long time ago. I went to the 87, it was either the 86 or 87 Big Cap, which Ferdinand and Broad Brush hit the wire together. That's the only time I've ever been to Santa Anita, and he was telling me how beautiful it was, and then he's like, hey, I know she's going to be a price. He's all, don't leave her out. Don't leave her out. And I'm like, what? And he's like, she's trading so good, and just don't leave her out. I'm not saying she's going to win, but she's going to run a big race. And, you know, unfortunately, I'm such a knucklehead. I bet with my brain, which I have to question, and not my heart, which I shouldn't.
Well, I couldn't pull the trigger on her looking at the PPs, but I talked to Penelope Miller yesterday, who's out there. She's with America's Best Racing and did a diary for their website over the week leading into and including the Breeders' Cup days. And she said yesterday that she saw Ria Antonio on the track in the week leading up, and she just looked fantastic. So certainly the horse came into the race right and lived up to that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward now. It looks like Jeremiah was talking about inner track down at Aqueduct and maybe taking the Princess of Silmar route. But his owner, I read yesterday, Kentucky Derby in the sights. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, that'll be pretty interesting. You know, I'm really happy for them. I met the owner. I don't. How do you pronounce his name? Feluccio or Feluccio?
I'll leave it to you. I don't know how you pronounce his name.
All I know is that he, you know, it's funny because when he first started having horses with Maya, I think about a year ago or so, he was LUCH in the program. And I remember early spring last year when our meet started, I asked Jeremiah, I go, hey, is that Luck after the series? And he's all, it's Luch. And then all of a sudden I started announcing it, Luch, in the winner's circle. And he changed his ownership line to L with about 3 O's with the CH. So I'm going to take a little credit for the angle.
I think you should, because, I'm looking at the chart here, and that's it. It's L with 3 O's after it. So I think you probably had a little part to play in that.
I should ask for my 0.5%.
That's right. Now that they've won a Breeders' Cup race. Tony, just before we move on to this afternoon, let's get some more thoughts on the Breeders' Cup. And just we're coming out, there are eclipse implications, obviously, and it seems like folks are maybe tilting towards Wise Dan for Horse of the Year. Is that the direction you would go?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think he deserves to be Horse of the Year. His one loss was on the synthetic at Keeneland, and I think he's there's no reason for him not to get it. Princess of Silmar, it's a shame that she wasn't able to run her race, and the dude, game on dude. I think the dude's somewhat of a fraud. He beats up on lesser individuals throughout the year, and then when the real money's on the line, if things just don't go his way, he's not quite there. I think it's Wise Dan again.
And we were just talking on the handicapping show just prior to this. What do you do about the 3-year-old boys? It seems like the direction that the pundits are going over the last couple of days is will take charge, and I guess that's kind of it. Last man standing kind of thing. He got good at the right time, so it seems like that seems to be the logical option. But boy, that 3-year-old male division is totally up in the air.
Yeah, it really is. I'm kind of partial to will take charge. I was alive for 5 out of 6 twice. It's a tough beat. I did get the same win by a nose in the Travers for a nice pick 4. I've been a little Breeders' Cup sour after that nose defeat, and I have to say the only thing I can be thankful for is that I wasn't alive for $117,000. That would have probably been one of the toughest beats of my career. He gets my vote. I really like the horse. He's amazing in my opinion. What he did in the Travers with 100 yards to go, what he did in the Classic. I mean, he's a length and a quarter. He's a length plus out. In just a matter of strides, he gets there. He's a huge individual, and I'm really, really excited to see him as a 4-year-old. I just hope he stays as sharp as the way he's finishing right now, because I think he could be something really, really special.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you alluded to it a moment ago, but on the 3-year-old filly side, I'm assuming it, like most people, Beholder would be it in your camp. And I said this earlier yesterday. Princess Asilmar, their camp should not worry about having taken the shot and going out there. I think a lot of people said if she stays in the barn, she's got the title locked up. And I was among that, going back 2 weeks or so ago. But seeing what Beholder did on Friday, I think Princess Asilmar would have been up against it even if she'd stayed in the barn. Seems like Beholder got good at the right time. But even if you look at her entire year resume, I think she's going to be the direction the voters go.
I think the owners should be commended for what they did. They put their gal out on the racetrack for the fans. Unfortunately, what's happened in horse racing the last 20-plus years is the horses retire way too early or they skip dances, and we haven't been able to get the fan base because people can't relate to a horse that runs for several years. I think that's why so many people like geldings, like John Henry, because they can relate to him because they're here for years. And I think regardless of the outcome in that ballot, they should be very, very proud of themselves for what they did because they gave us a chance to see that horse run.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And let's shift our attention now to Finger Lakes for this afternoon before we get to some actual races. What's the weather forecast look like for Tuesday afternoon?
You know, I think it's supposed to warm up a little bit. It's been a little frigid the last couple of days. Most of the leaves are gone, pretty much all of the leaves off the trees, and it's been kind of a little gray and ugly of late. But I think we're going to have a fast racetrack. I believe we got the fast yesterday after the second or third race, and we'll be fast again. And hopefully we get a little bit of warmth in the air. And wrapping it down, we're 26 days away from being all over, and we're going to wrap it up on December 10th, so we're into the final stretch here.
And we should remind people you kind of changed up the schedule and moved up the post time as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We're Monday through Friday now, 12:15 every day for the duration of the season. We're open for simulcast wagering on Saturdays and Sundays, and we've recently expanded our gaming floor. We've got a new Las Vegas-style bar called Remedy with a huge projection screen, stage for bands and comedians, and 22 TVs. It's a very nice setting. And we also have a Wolfgang Puck Express for some nice gourmet pizzas and burgers and salads and all sorts of good stuff.
So even when the racing ends, people can still have fun out at Finger Lakes.
Oh, yeah, they sure can.
All right, Tony, let's take a look at
some...
some...
Not as much fun, though.
Not
as much fun, because I'm a horse guy, and we need to emphasize that.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. I think, I've been a guy who supported these slots at racetrack plans to subsidize the game. But I'd also wish a lot of these racetracks that have the slot machines would do a little more to promote the crossover. And I think the folks who are playing slot machines would find that the racing game is a lot of fun if they would give it a try, because it's a mental puzzle, and that's what I enjoy about it. You get to test your brain.
Seth, we're throwbacks. My father taught me everything I know about horse racing when I was really, really early. Unfortunately, fathers aren't teaching their children anymore about horse racing. And it's too bad. It's a great game, and I'm glad that we have days like we had this past weekend to really showcase the good stuff.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about Saratoga too, and some of the other boutique venues around the country. You go to Saratoga out in the backyard, and I still think you do see the families there and the dads maybe looking over the racing farm with the kids. It doesn't happen at enough racetracks, but there are still some places out there where it does happen. So we got to applaud that a little bit.
Well, I've always said, I was talking with one of the stewards the other day, and we both agree that we've always felt like I think racetracks should be a little bit more like fair settings. I've always said that there should be like some little bit of carnival rides for the children. There possibly could be some shopping for the women, and there could be like some little games to win prizes, and have it all horse racing themed. We're giving away stuffed horses and stuffed jockeys and stuff like that, and have a couple little games. Treat it more like a little fair environment, and I think it could be a little bit more enjoyable for the family instead of just a pure gambler.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea of, for folks who maybe are kind of new and just want to dip their toe in, maybe rather than the money, you put in a little bet to win a prize or something, no money involved.
I don't know if you remember, I remember when I was younger, you used to be able to go to the fairs, and they had like this pinball, it was kind of like a pinball horse racing. Have the huge video board, and I don't know why racetracks don't have that for the kids, and they have a bunch of little prizes, and they can sit there and they see the horse move across the track. My dad used to we'd go to Reno, and he'd dump me off at Circus, and he'd probably have to win $100 just to feed my habit upstairs with that game.
Well, I'll also bring up something else that you triggered my memory. I don't know if where you were they had them, but I remember up here when I was a kid on television on the weekends, the supermarkets around here during the week would give away a little game card, and then on the weekend they would show old races that would be tied into the game card, and you could win cash prizes that way.
I don't remember that, but that sounds pretty cool. You know, it's funny. I bring back that game at the fairs and stuff. I always said if I got real rich, that would be in my man cave, and I'd have like about 30 people over, and we'd just be playing that all night. That would be awesome.
I like that. Yeah, I certainly remember those games as well. All right, Tony, let's shift our attention to this afternoon. Which races are you going to take a look at?
Take a look quick at the first race. You know, I like the 9-horse, My Lover's Eyes. I did notice that he was a 5-year-old that debuted in late October. Not big on playing debuting 5- and 6-year-olds, even in their second-time start, but this guy sure was stretching his legs pretty nicely, and he's going to get an extra furlong to negotiate. He has a couple of 6-furlong drills before his debut run. He comes from a pretty good family, Deeply Smitten. It's the dam of Smitten by Gold, who's a very nice Michael Esperaro horse. He's my top horse. The other horse I was looking at was the 2, Uga. I would use both of them if I was playing any type of pick 3 or pick 4.
All right, that's race number 4. You have the number 9 on top, the number 2 underneath. I have it. I have a 2, 8, 9, so I'm right in the same category, and I'm thinking of boxing those up, in fact, because I think that 2 at 6-1 looks very generous. All right, race number 4 you have in the books? What else?
I swore the 8. Your 8 also has a good look. Let's go to the 5th race. I've got a few of them, so I'm going to hustle today. 5th race, I take a look at the 6, Alpha Zumba. Let's forgive his most recent effort. If you look at the race 2 back on a fast track, he is basically 0.60 on the dollar. And he gets Charlie Amaro. It's a big jockey switch. Charlie's been doing really well first time, taking over for horses. Buyers have increased. And at 5-1, I think he's pretty intriguing in the 5th.
I found that horse interesting, too. I had it underneath in the mix, but on the jockey change, that's another one I called a play of the day. Exacta box in there. I'm going to box up the 10, 8, and the 6 in that one. And I agree. I like the jockey change there from the 7-pound apprentice. All right, what else you have?
7th race, let's take a look at the 6th, Our Day in Court. I'm not sure if he's a better late-running sprinter, but he sure is bred to get a mile. Sharp Humor out of a Donna Rail Court mare. Seemed to be going pretty good in the final furlong last time, and I'm going to give him a look at 8-1. I think the price is way too generous.
Interesting, trained by Jack Wolfeseeder, who was a personality right here on the network years and years ago. So there's a little bit of a connection there. All right, there's 3. You got anything else, or are we all set?
8th race, I love the 5, So Smart. He's 5-1 on the morning line. I think he's a horse with a lot of ability. If you forget about She's a Stone Cold Fox race, I should say. I really liked her debut run. I thought she put it all together in her maiden victory. And at 5-1, I really like her. I think she's worth a nice $20 win bet.
Tony, I'm glad you brought this race up because I did Finger Lakes on the handicapping show earlier. In this race, I looked at the morning line, 3-2 on Ginny Bell. I could not figure that out.
Yeah, you know, obviously Chris Engelhardt. Yeah, I can't either. I really can't.
I'm going to be interested.
You know, I'm not going to get 5-1 on my horse, but if I get 5-2, I'm happy. I really like the 5.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see what the betting public does with Ginny Bell because I kept thinking, man, am I missing something? Is there something here I should be keying on? I use McNick in that race and use So Smart right underneath, so I'm right in the same ballpark with you. All right, Tony, we certainly appreciate the visit this morning, and it was fun to talk a little bit about the Breeders' Cup with the Finger Lakes angle because, you know, as I say, I had Jeremiah Engelhardt on with me up at Saratoga this year. Seems like a really nice guy, so it's easy to root for that kind of thing. And since we're kind of connected with the Finger Lakes, with you being on each and every week, it was nice to root Rhea Antonio home, and it's going to be fun to watch her as a 3-year-old next year. So, Tony, thanks for the visit this morning. Good luck this afternoon.
Hi, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. Tony Kalo from Finger Lakes. We'll take our next break. When we come back, it is going to be Sean Clancy from thisishorseracing.com. Also, again, he was with the Horse Racing Radio Network team this weekend out at Santa Anita. So a little Breeders' Cup conversation continues after this.
This is Steve Beck. Join me Tuesday through Saturday here on OTB TV for At the Races, my Sirius XM daily news magazine of the thoroughbred industry. Handicapping, interviews, analysis, everything you could want. 6 a.m. OTB TV.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. with a newly designed and engineered internet wagering platform, enhanced video streaming, additional funding options, and 3 new individual wagering opportunities. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. Combine that with our all-new mobile website. You have 2 of the most powerful, innovative, and advanced wagering platforms available today. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Tuesday morning. Happy to be joined now by Sean Clancy of ThisIsHorseRacing.com, as well as part of the team covering the Breeders' Cup for the Horse Racing Radio Network this past weekend. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Hey, we're happy to have you on board. Before we get to some specific races, I've been asking everybody that stopped by this week just some overall impressions of the 2 days of racing.
I thought it was great 2 days. I mean, I to get out there and see all those horses. There were some epic performances. I thought Wise Dam was just scintillating, and a couple other big ones. The John Velasquez getting hurt on that filly, that really took a little bit of the fun out of the second day. But all in all, it was a good couple of days of racing for sure.
And as a former jockey yourself on the jump side, but still a former jockey, certainly again, I think it took the wind out of everybody's sails. Velasquez, although, and I'm sure you didn't watch the NBC broadcast because you were on track, but during the afternoon, they were kind of hopeful that he might come back and actually race. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way, and it turned out to work out well, actually, because as I read the story, he was thinking, they had cleared him as far as fractures and whatnot, and he was thinking of heading back to the track when he complained of some nausea. They did some more tests, they did the right thing, and then went in for some surgery. So we wish him the best, and he's on the sidelines now. But again, as a former jockey, you also had to be thrilled that really the jockey stories kind of ruled the weekend with Mike Smith and Gary Stevens.
Yeah, those two are just, they're so good. I mean, to see those guys at this age perform like that. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, the funny thing about riding races, when you really get good and can really read a race and know exactly where you want to be, and things just start falling into place, it's usually time you have to quit. I know for me, like the last 3 years I rode, I was like, wow, this is the way it's supposed to be. I just find myself exactly where I wanted to be in a race. And those guys, watching them ride, they just seem like they just slow it down. They just get themselves in these great spots. Gary Stevens got that way. He kind of purchased up over the horse's withers. He did it on Beholder and Mucho Macho Man. Just found perfect spots in those 2 races. And Mike Smith as well. He just, they're so natural. They're so gifted. And I think at this age, they just have that kind of poise in those big moments to have the confidence to do exactly what they want to do. I just find it's just thrilling to watch those 2 guys perform at that level.
And as a race watcher, I think the guys with smarts make the best jockeys. And as you say, I think they get smarter with experience, because that's why jocks maybe in their 30s, mid-30s tend to be hitting kind of a peak. And it was really interesting after the Classic, Donna Brothers is interviewing Gary Stevens on the way back to the winner's circle, and he's kind of commenting what he did in the first 1/8 of a mile to put his horse into position, and what he did in relation to Smith's horse. And I'm sure unbeknownst completely to Mike Smith then gets interviewed moments later talking about the losing effort, and he comments also about what Gary Stevens did to put him in such a position. So they're both obviously playing chess. They're both very smart guys. And I'll also comment, Smith, the post-race interviews after he won, very articulate. He's a great representative of the sport. But again, he also did interviews when he lost, Royal Delta, Game on Dude. Those have to be tough, but he steps up. I think he's a classy, intelligent guy. Were you in the jocks room up at Saratoga the same time as Mike Smith?
He actually had just come to New York when I was first starting. I mean, the early '90s, and I remember he was riding a filly trained by Mike Freeman, one of the all-time greats. That I was galloping, a filly named Bat Prospector, and I remember talking to Mike about her, and became great friends with him. That was like in probably 1990, I guess. I think he had spent the winter in Aqueduct. I think it was his first summer at Saratoga, and just became great friends. And to see what he's accomplished and what he's accomplishing now is it's just fascinating to watch.
Yeah, those two guys really one of the stories of the weekend. But let's go back and take a look at some of the actual racing. We'll cover some of the turf racing with you as we're slowly during the week going over and recapping all of the events from the past weekend. We'll first up look at the Breeders' Cup Turf. We're going to watch Magician win this one. Again, a Grade 1 event with $3 million on the line, a mile and a half. We're going to watch the stretch run as Aidan O'Brien's Magician gets it done under Ryan Moore. The Fugue, who folks were really keyed into as the 3-2 favorite. I thought the Fugue, the female coming in against the boys, was going to be very tough, and certainly she looked tough in the race. She's number 7. Indy Point runs 3rd. And Point of Entry runs 4th. And Point of Entry coming off the long layoff was the interesting one for me. And I know on thisishorseracing.com you had talked to Shug McGahee about Point of Entry coming into the race. But your thoughts on the turf?
It was a brilliant race. I mean, one of those great races to watch. A lot of different moves in the race. The Few she looked home free, and she just got maybe a little bit late. He might have moved maybe a touch too soon. I mean, it's easy to say that afterwards, but she ran great. Point of Entry, he was way back. I think he just probably found himself a little farther back than maybe he wanted to. I think he just seemed like he got a little too far back. And, the winner ran a great race. It was interesting to see how well Magician ran. I mean, I always, not really a criticism, it's just an observation, but over the years I've always said with these Coolmore horses, they rarely point a horse for the Breeders' Cup. It's usually kind of an afterthought after a long season over there. They fill a plane and just bring them, and that seems like their approach. So, this year with Magician, it was one of the few times they brought a fresh horse here. He won the Irish 2000 Guineas. He's a nice horse over there, but he hadn't run since June. Ran a great race. He's I think it was one of the few times that they brought a horse that wasn't at the end of a long season. He was making just his 4th start of the year. And, he was very impressive. Typical Coolmore by Galileo, well-bred, nice horse. And, the Fugue, she was unlucky to win. I was kind of hoping she'd win at that stage. I'm a Point of Entry fan, but you could tell he wasn't going to get there. So then you're kind of trying to root for the Fugue just because, she's a neat filly. You're hoping she's going to get it done. But she ran great. I mean, it was a good race all around.
Yeah, very talented filly in there, and it was a nice race by the 2 top place finishers. But again, Point of Entry off the layoff. I didn't know what to do with that horse coming off the layoff like that. But I think that the 4th place finish was decent. Disappointment for me. I had Point of Entry in my mix. I had the Fugue right underneath. The horse I put on top, though, was Big Blue Kitten. I thought this year, it seemed like the way the year's been going, I thought Ken Ramsey had to win a turf race at the Breeders' Cup, and he walks away disappointed.
Yeah, if there was anybody who was disappointing, it was certainly him and Real Solution. The 2 Ramsey horses, they really didn't. They didn't back up their races they were earlier this summer. Not exactly sure why. I mean, it just seemed like maybe they. I think they're good horses. The Fugue was good. Magician was good. Point of Entry ran well. They just didn't really close it out like you were kind of expecting them to.
And let me ask you about another jockey. I don't know whether you've had any interaction, but if you have, I'd love to hear your take on Ryan Moore, who, watching the NBC broadcast, I found it really interesting. Donna Brothers, after the 2 races Ryan Moore won, came up and did the normal horseback interview, and he was about as subdued as you could be after winning a Breeders' Cup race. Most of these guys are effusive and ready to talk and give their, and she had to drag it completely out of him. And after the second interview, she actually said, as she trotted away, a subdued Ryan Moore. Have you ever had any contact with him?
I know him a little bit. I mean, I know to say hello to him. I've watched him ride. It's funny. I actually read a story once. I think it was in the Racing Post maybe, and it was a pretty well-written article, and the writer had written it very much in the sense of how difficult this article was going to be to interview Ryan Moore because he is so quiet and he is so subdued, and he, he's just a very, very low key kind of guy, and borderline, maybe standoffish or just a little tough. So he wrote the story about trying to go there, and he spent the day with him, and it was a really well done article because you really got a sense of Ryan Moore and his personality, and I think that's just him. He's not very, he's just not a type of guy that's really outgoing or gets, really, he just doesn't. He's more reserved and kind of keeps to himself. And so I remember reading that article, and then since then there's been a few times where I think, oh, I would try to interview that guy, and I think, oh God, maybe that's going to be tough. So. Brilliant jockey, rode great, and I think that's just him. I think that's his personality. Probably doesn't mean anything by it, but it's just him.
Yeah, it was, both of the interviews were very funny. You could see Downer Brothers kind of struggling to get something going there and get a spark of enthusiasm after banking $5 million in purses, but it was not there. And let's go back to Ryan Moore's other win earlier on the card, the Filly and Mayer Turf, where he was on Dank, who boy, very impressive. She comes over here earlier this year and dusts the field in the Beverly D on the Arlington Million undercard, and then comes back off of that effort, returns to America for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mayer Turf. Dank gets it done, but even more interesting, also coming in from Europe, Romantica runs second, and Alterite, now in the Chad Brown barn, and a little bit of a disappointment of a weekend for Chad Brown, but this one, Alterite running third, was a horse that had come from Europe earlier in the career, and the Europeans really dominated on the turf this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating as an American racing participant fan to watch the Europeans come over and hand it to us like that. Dank she's really good. She's very well made for America. She's kind of a lighter filly. You can see in the paddock. You look at her and you think, wow, is she ever suited for American racing? You can just tell she's not a type of horse going to plow through soft ground over there and on those demanding courses. She just has a beautiful way of going, real light kind of step to her long legs. Coming off her Beverly D, she just looked like a lock to me. I mean, I think when you looked at the horses, if you looked at the horses over the 2 days that you could single or really stand behind, I just thought Dank was one of them. After her Beverly D was dominant, and they put her kind of aim at the Breeders' Cup. She just looked nailed on to me, and she was. Romantica ran great. She had a little bit of a rough trip. I thought she ran well. I was rooting for Emollient. That's kind of the Eagle, my horse, the Eagle Poised by Empire Maker. So I was kind of rooting for her, and she ran well in front. Mike Smith came back and said she was looking at the shadows and looking at things, and might have cost her third money, but I thought she ran really well. All things considered, she's only 3. She's the type that could get better with a little bit of age too. Maybe come back there next year on that turf again and run well.
And did you have a chance to see Laughing by any chance earlier in the week? Because I heard reports that Laughing didn't travel that well, and I was puzzled. This was after the race, because I was puzzled during the race that Laughing wasn't out there setting the pace under Jose Lezcano. But subsequently, I've heard a couple of things that Laughing may just not have been coming into it in top form.
Yeah, I didn't get out there till late. I was in England at a horse sale, so I didn't get out there till Thursday. I didn't really get a chance to see her. It just seemed like Alan Goldberg, the trainer, was a little bit hesitant, about going out there. I mean, even this summer when we were talking to him about her, it just never seemed like he was really anxious to put her on the road and go to California for the Breeders' Cup. She's notoriously a bad shipper. I mean, they had one filly that would just go everywhere with her to all those races, Saratoga and Belmont. And, I had heard out there several, and I'd heard it more often than you could dismiss, that she had not traveled great, and even a couple people said he didn't want to run her. Now that was just scuttlebutt around the racetrack, but you know how that is. Usually there's some truth to that. So it was a little disappointing. The thing I didn't really like her in the race that much. It just seemed like I just didn't think she was going to get that free lead like she had in those other races, and just seemed like a competitive race to ship all the way out there, run on turf that's, very firm, probably not really something that she's encountered before. and she didn't really do much running. I mean, she certainly wasn't, her customary front-running performance.
All right, let's shift our attention to the one grass race the Americans were able to capture. That's the mile, the Breeders' Cup Mile. We're going to watch the stretch run here. Number 8, Wise Dan, gets it done. I thought yet another impressive performance from number 10, Za Approval, for Live Oak Plantation and Christophe Clement. But Wise Dan gets it done under substitute jockey Jose Lascano. And again, as a jockey yourself, that has got to be tough to come into a big day like this and an hour or two before the race be placed on the race favorite. But he did a great job with the come-from-behind effort here as we watch the stretch run from Wise Dan.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier. You haven't overthought it. You haven't worried about it all week. So, no, Jose's. I mean, it's amazing how easy Charlie Lepresti's had it in a way, because John Velasquez obviously Wise Dan's number 1 rider, but every time Johnny had either got hurt or had another commitment when he had to ride Point of Entry there this spring, Jose Lascano's sitting there in the wings, and to have that replacement ready that knows your horse and is a very capable rider. I'm sure Charlie had anxious moments and was stressed a little bit about making the change, but it's sure easier to go to a guy that's ridden your horse as well as he has. He won the Shadwell Mile on him. He won the Maker's Mark Mile. Won the Turf Classic this spring at Churchill on him. So, in that situation, when you have to replace your jockey on the day, at least I think that was probably the least stressful jockey switch maybe in the history of the turf, where you can walk in there and get a guy that's ridden your horse that many times and ridden him well. He gave him a great ride. He kind of got him back there and settled a little bit. I watched the race with Charlie and with his whole crew, Damien Rock and Reeve McGahee, the assistant, and it was funny watching it. We were all, he was back there pretty far. We were all a little bit worried, but when he switched to his right lead, you could just see the old Wise Dan came out and just mowed him down like we've gotten so accustomed to watch. Just I don't know, there's so much criticism in today's world about the racing world, about all these, these horses that don't stay around, and we don't have the stars. And you think about it, look, we've watched Wise Dan for now. He's 19 for 27. He's 6 years old. Comes back and win his 2nd straight Breeders' Cup Mile. It was just to be there, to stand there and watch that performance again was just thrilling. And credit to the horse and trainer, and just a brilliant performance.
And the 2 days were filled with some repeaters like that. Beholder, obviously only a 3-year-old, but she had won a Breeders' Cup race last year. But some other horses that have now been around for a while. Groupie Doll, Misdirection, come back and win repeat events. So it was a day when we could celebrate horses coming back to the races. And Wise Dan, did you get an impression? I don't know whether this would have been something that would have come up standing next to Charlie, but on the NBC broadcast, they interviewed him right after the race. And you could see he was kind of wistful and lamented that the win streak had been broken last time. Obviously, there was plenty of reason for that with the switch to the synthetic and the rain that the track had taken there. But he seemed, as they say, a little bit disappointed that win streak hadn't continued coming into the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was disappointing probably for Charlie. When you get that comfortable with winning and you have a horse that good, I think it's you kind of take it's a personal defeat when you see a horse that good that is he's like an old friend. You're trying to you kind of trust each other. To see them go down in defeat, kind of for them more than even for yourself. It's fair. I know he was disappointed by that, just for the horse's sake. I think he felt like it wasn't really a fair assignment in that it came off the grass, went to a mile and a 16th. He had a wide trip, and Silver Max was tough to run down. Certainly, most of that was was eased, at least with the Breeders' Cup. Just another epic performance. I mean, I did the radio show for HRN, and they always ask me to describe the horses, and I usually talk about how horses have changed and what they look like from 3 to 4, and how much weight they put on or what they've done. And I said, Wise Dan, he looks exactly the same. He just looked exactly the same for 2 years. He just is this big, beautiful horse. He shows up and does his thing. And motto of consistency by far to me was the moment of the weekend, to see him run the way we're used to seeing him run. Just capped another championship season, and just a great moment in racing.
And Sean, just before we let you go, just some thoughts on the Classic, which was a ding-dong duel, obviously. I kind of discounted Declaration of War. He ran very well under the 6-foot-tall Joseph O'Brien. They commented on the NBC broadcast again, as they did probably 2 years ago now. Probably won't be a jockey much longer, but he's lasted this long, and he was up there right in the mix with Declaration of War. But then under the wire, will take charge for a 78-year-old Wayne Lucas, almost gets it done. But heart transplant survivor Kathy Ritvo and Mucho Macho Man, it was a great capper to the weekend.
It was a great race. I mean, to watch those three horses. Declaration of War. I mean, he's obviously trained in Ireland, but he's purely American bred. He looked great in the paddock. He looks like a dirt horse. I thought he ran really well. When I saw him out there, I thought, wow, this horse is going to run great. And the Will Take Charge, he ran super. He's filled out. I mean, he is filled out even from Saratoga. Big, beautiful horse. He ran great. And to me, Gary Stevens, it was just it was an epic performance by Gary Stevens to get Mucho Macho Man. He broke sharply, could have easily been in front. He eased him back off those horses a little bit, then kind of pressed when he needed to press, and got there. And Gary talked about it. He didn't want to hit the horse, and before the Awesome Again, he thought, I think you got to be a little lighter on this horse and maybe not hit him. And I know that last 16th of a mile, every shred of him wanted to reach back and hit him, and he just kept kind of flicking his right stick at him and keeping him up in the bridle, and I think that's what won him the race. It was close, but great performance, great training job. I think everybody with the horse that horse has not been easy to get to the Breeders' Cup 2013. I mean, he's had some issues. You watched him; he looked real narrow and light. They put on weight. He looks great now, and I just think it's great credit to everybody that's been involved with that horse.
Yeah, and it was, as I say, a great capper to the weekend. Sean, certainly appreciate the visit this morning. Again, great job with the Horse Racing Radio Network out there covering for that group, the 2 days of racing. And we'll also tout, again, always great coverage of racing on thisishorseracing.com. You and Tom Law were out there covering the Breeders' Cup in particular, but there's great coverage on racing all year long. And still, I'm sure there will be some coverage on the Steeplechase Eclipse, which is still up in the air with one Grade 1 yet to go. So maybe we'll catch up with you down the road as we get closer to that as well. Sean, thanks for the visit this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Sean Clancy, this is HorseRacingNow.com. We'll take our next break when we come back. Got a little video clip to show you in the next quick little segment. Then we'll come back after that with Michael Chamberlain from Turf Paradise. All of that after this.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night School, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network. The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right, the 2013 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes and a seat at the 2014 National Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is Wager Wars. So sign up today online at capitalotb.com or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook. And don't forget our Showviver series, Capital OTB's online handicapping contest. Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Tuesday morning, as it is the first Tuesday in November. That means Melbourne Cup, and of course, they're much ahead of us as far as the clock, so the Melbourne Cup was actually run late last night, about 11 o'clock last night. You could have seen it right here on Capital OTB TV. The Melbourne Cup this year was won by Fiorente. First win for Gay Waterhouse, who is the name trainer down there. She's maybe the equivalent to a Todd Pletcher up here. Gay Waterhouse gets her first Melbourne Cup. Damien Oliver, the jockey, his third Melbourne Cup. A little controversy there as Damien Oliver had been suspended, come back from a suspension in which he was suspended for betting on horse races at some point. And there was reports that yesterday Damien Oliver was booed by some of the punters out there at Flemington Racecourse. But Fiorente wins the Melbourne Cup. Running second was Red Cadeau. Both of these horses in previous runnings of the Melbourne Cup had been runners-up. And that was the result of yesterday's Melbourne Cup. And I will alert you, we'll watch the Melbourne Cup tomorrow on Racing Across America. And we will be joined by Dick Powell, who has made at least 1 or 2 visits out to the Melbourne Cup, an astute watcher of international racing. We'll get some of Dick's opinions on the Melbourne Cup, but also we'll hear from him on the Breeders' Cup as well. All that tomorrow on Racing Across America. And speaking of Australia, as we go to the commercial, I have a funny piece of video from Friday night out in Australia, about 20 or 25 seconds, just take you through the first part of a race out there. I won't spill the beans. I'll just say watch and listen to the race as they come around the far turn. This is Bathurst Racecourse in Australia. Again, it was Friday night Australia time, so it would have been Thursday, Thursday our time. Bathurst Racecourse. Again, it's a quirky video. If you want to watch it again, I have a link over on Equidaily as well, but we'll show it to you here because it's just one of those things where you scratch your head. An odd occurrence on the racetrack. As I say, I'm going to head to the break now. When we come back, Michael Chamberlain from Turf Paradise, but a quirky video to take you into the break. Stay tuned and enjoy.
On the outside there, Roman Victory, Necessary Evil, Bolter is running a bit of a race. Over on the inside, Flying Impulse, Cool Ice is coming around them very deep. Oh, gee, the sprinklers have come on in the home straight here. Let's hope they get through this safe.
I'm Jeff Carl. Join me Saturdays and Sundays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the weekend in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekends at 9, only here on the OTB TV network.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. With a newly designed and engineered internet wagering platform, enhanced video streaming, additional funding options, and 3 new individual wagering opportunities, CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. Combine that with our all-new mobile website. You have 2 of the most powerful, innovative, and advanced wagering platforms available today. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I'm Steve Beck.
And I'm Seth Merrill.
Together, we're loose on the lead on Capital OTB, Sundays at 10 a.m. Why should they watch, Seth?
Sit down on Sunday, have a bagel, get some great racing conversation.
Cream cheese only, no jelly. Sundays, 10 a.m., loose on the lead, Capital OTB.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. We are happy to be joined now by Michael Chamberlain from Turf Paradise. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very good. Happy to have you on board, and we're going to get some thoughts on Turf Paradise for this afternoon. But before we do that, we're asking all the guests this weekend for some thoughts on the Breeders' Cup. We have a specific race with a Turf Paradise tie-in we're going to take a look at in a moment. But first, just your overall impressions from the 2 days of racing.
Well, my impressions are that as bad as I did last year, I did worse this year. And I think it's because a lot of the same horses ended up winning.
There you go. Yeah.
But, I mean, it was great to see all these horses come back and repeat. Misdirection, Wise Dan, Groupie Doll. It shows that these horses have a lot of staying power, and they're certainly the class of those divisions. And even Mucho Macho Man. I mean, last year he realistically should have won the Classic over Fort Larned, and this year he does win the Classic. So it's good to see that these horses are sticking around for a couple of seasons and performing at their best.
And I'm sure there was actually another kind of side tie-in to Turf Paradise in that one of the big stories coming out of the weekend was Gary Stevens. And, of course, his brother Scott rides down at Turf Paradise.
Absolutely, and I've been saying since we started this season, Scott Stevens has gotten off to a great start here. He continues to ride very impressively. He had a nice win yesterday on the turf on a mid-price horse called CSI Iowa, which I know we've talked about before, and he's been around here at Turf Paradise for a while, and he gave that horse a great ride, and he is doing fantastic. He and Gary have a whole lot of reasons to be proud the way that family's going right now.
Yeah, it's all in the genes. It doesn't always work out that way, but it seems to in the Stevens family. All right, Michael, let's take a look. As I say, there was a nice Breeders' Cup tie-in this weekend on Friday, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Broadway Empire, you talked about this horse a little bit with us last week. Your leading trainer trains this horse, goes in the Dirt Mile. We're going to pick the Dirt Mile up right out of the gate, because I think Broadway Empire had the worst of it. Broadway Empire is going to be the number 6 horse and is going to be dueling virtually the entire way around with the number 12, the eventual winner, Golden Sense. And I think Broadway Empire, as we watch the race, is getting the worst of it in that he's on the inside. I think the horse in these speed duels, the horse on the outside, always has a little bit of an advantage. And so it's Golden Sense and Broadway Empire in 22 and change, 44 and change, 108 and change. And so, as I say, it was a pretty nice effort from the horse with the Turf Paradise tie-in, but I think he was up against it with the positioning.
Absolutely. You know, the way the race developed, it just seemed that both of those horses were supposed to just stop once they hit the stretch, and Broadway Empire did, unfortunately for all of us here in Phoenix, but Golden Sense, I mean, you can't say enough about that performance. Setting those fractions and then going on to win as impressively as he did, I thought that was one of the more stunning developments of the Friday races at the Breeders' Cup, because I'll tell you, I thought that both of those horses were going to be cooked at the top of the stretch, and regardless of whether or not the speed was holding on Friday, which it was doing quite a bit at Santa Anita, I didn't think there was any way either of those horses would be around at the finish. And when Golden Sense did what he did and just moved away from everybody in the stretch, it showed what a very classy animal he is. And I think he's hopefully back in the form that won him the Santa Anita Derby and some of those prep races for the Kentucky Derby earlier this year before he got on a little bit of a losing streak.
Yeah, and as we watched, Broadway Empire was down inside early through the first maybe quarter of a mile of fractions. On the far turn, tried to come up on the outside and just couldn't keep up with Golden Sense there. But I should note, Broadway Empire, also only a 3-year-old, and comes out of an Oklahoma Derby victory, a Canadian Derby victory, so probably has a nice little future ahead.
Absolutely. I think we're all looking forward to seeing that horse run again in 2014 as a 4-year-old, and I think he's got very good things ahead of him.
All right. And let's turn our attention now to Turf Paradise for this Tuesday afternoon. Give us the weather forecast for today.
Today's going to be a little bit windy. The sun is shining. Temperature's only supposed to be in the 70s. But the big thing today is going to be the wind. We'll have to see which direction it's blowing, whether it'll be aiding the horses up the backstretch as it normally does when the wind blows here. It normally blows helping the horses up the backstretch and against them in the home stretch. But we'll see how that wind is going to affect the racing today. But I think it's going to be a nice day. It's just maybe a little bit of a breeze for those folks sitting out there on our track apron.
All right, let's take a look at a couple for today. We'll kick things off in race number 3. It's a $3,200 claimer. They will go 1 mile.
And my choice in here is the 5 Danger Ranger. Last time ran for $3,500 non-winners of 3. So this is a $3,200 open race. So you're getting a little bit of a lesser claiming price, but you're going into open company. So I think this is a very nice 9-2 shot on the morning line. Take a look at the horse scored a very nice win last time on October 21st with Galen Mitchell aboard. And if you look in the past performances, the last 3 times this horse has gone 1 mile on a dirt track, the horse has hit the board. Finished 3rd at Emerald in September and was 2nd up at Santa Rosa in August. So maybe this is the distance for Danger Ranger, and I think that he and Galen Mitchell clicked nicely last time out with trainer Jeff Metz, and I look for him to make it 2 in a row today.
All right, let's go out to the finale today at Turf Paradise. It's a $3,000 B condition claimer. They are going 6.5.
And my pick here is going to be the 1 Schofield Barracks. It's going to be the favorite with Jorge Carreño aboard. This horse was claimed out of his last 2 tries in Southern California. ran a mile and a 16th at Betfair Hollywood on July 11th, and then a mile and an 8th at Del Mar on July 28th, both on those artificial surfaces. Ran second in both of those efforts, and now is coming back here to Phoenix and is running for only a $3,000 claiming tag, as you mentioned. But this horse has been working very well, both in Southern California and here in Phoenix, and I think this return to the races is a nice spot for Schofield Barracks to come back, especially getting Jorge Carreño aboard here, and he is starting to catch up to the Scott Stevens streak that we were talking about a little earlier. He's starting to ride very well, and he's starting to win his share of races, and I think Schofield Barracks is nice shot there in that last race to get a favorite home, maybe in that last leg of the pick 5 when you need one to clinch getting that pick 5 home.
Yeah, and I talk about it a lot when we do handicapping here. I handicap Finger Lakes on Mondays and Tuesdays, and I talk about the venue class relief moving from the NYRA circuit up to Finger Lakes, and I think there may be some similar venue relief on the move from Southern California down to Turf Paradise, so I agree that one looks pretty solid there in the finale today. And Michael, before we let you go, let's just go back to the Breeders' Cup and talk a little bit about some of the Eclipse implications coming out of it. Seems like folks are starting to tilt towards Wise Dan again as Horse of the Year.
Well, I think that based on the results that he certainly is going to merit getting that consideration. I mean, the one really off performance he put in was a race that was taken off the turf at Keeneland. And, granted, he ended up running second to Silver Max on that day, but there were a lot of circumstances that conspired against him. So I could certainly see where Wise Dan would be a very good candidate for Horse of the Year. It's a shame Princess of Silmar ran as badly as she did in the Friday distaff. And I like having that name back, by the way. I think that she might have cost herself not only a shot at Horse of the Year, but a shot at the 3-year-old filly championship as well, because the way she was just plowing through everybody through the spring and the summer, you really were hoping she was going to run a big race, and it just didn't happen. And it's unfortunate because her connections made what I think was the sporting and the good decision to go ahead and run in the Breeders' Cup. That's what the whole purpose of having the Breeders' Cup is, and unfortunately she didn't run up to expectation. So that was a bit of an unfortunate one, but I tend to think that Wise Dan will be Horse of the Year just based on the way everything played out.
All right, Michael, we certainly appreciate the visit this morning. As always, good luck this afternoon at Turf Paradise. We'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks a lot. Michael Chamberlain from Turf Paradise. A little earlier, Sean Clancy from ThisIsHorseRacing.com. We kick things off this Tuesday morning with Tony Kalo from Finger Lakes. All of that wraps it up, brings us to the end of the show. We will again have some more Breeders' Cup conversation as we continue out this week. As noted, tomorrow on the show, we'll be joined by Dick Powell. We'll also cover the Melbourne Cup with Dick. So Jeremy Plonk also on to tomorrow's show. Plenty of Breeders' Cup wrap-up continues Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday through the rest of the week on Racing Across America. We're here every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. 9 a.m. is the Handicappers Report. Good luck at the races this afternoon. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.